In August 1914, Europe was thrown into chaos when a Serbian nationalist assassinated Archduke Franz Ferdinand, heir to the Austro-Hungarian Empire. Within weeks, the continent was engulfed in the deadliest conflict in human history. World War I had begun. But while Ferdinand's death in Sarajevo is widely seen as the event that sparked the war, it wasn't solely responsible for the outbreak of hostilities. Rather, it was the event that set off a chain reaction, the diplomatic crisis that followed. Ferdinand's assassination was like dropping a match into a tinderbox. It ignited the flames of nationalism, imperialism, and militarism that had been building in Europe for decades. Now, to understand how this happened, we need to wind back the clock a few years. In the early 20th century, Europe was a powder keg just waiting to explode. The assassination of an archduke was merely the catalyst. Beneath the surface, a complex web of alliances, ambitions, and rivalries was steadily growing. The first and most immediate cause of World War I was the alliance system. By the early 20th century, Europe was divided into two competing alliances, the Triple Entente and the Triple Alliance. The Triple Entente, also known as the Antwerp Cordiale, consisted of France, Russia, and Great Britain. Meanwhile, the Triple Alliance was made up of Germany, Austria, Hungary, and Italy. These alliances were not necessarily motivated by close ties between nations. Rather, they were formed out of a combination of fear and self-interest. Each nation hoped that by joining forces with other powers, they would be strong enough to resist any potential aggression from their rivals. Unfortunately, this complex web of alliances meant that a conflict between two nations could quickly escalate into a continental war. The second cause was the rise of nationalism. Now, nationalism is a strong form of patriotism that emphasizes the interests of a particular nation over those of individuals or other nations. In the 19th century, nationalism had swept across Europe, fostering a sense of unity and identity among the people. But it also created rivalries and tensions, particularly in areas where different national groups lived side by side. Take, for instance, Austria-Hungary. This sprawling empire was made up of a patchwork of different ethnic groups, including Slavs, Hungarians, Romanians, and Czechs. Each group had its own language, culture, and aspirations. Now, the Austrians ruled over these people with an iron fist, suppressing their national identities in favor of their own. As a result, many of the subject peoples chafed under Austrian rule, seeking instead to forge their own independent nations. It was this growing sense of nationalism that made the Balkans a tinderbox leading up to World War I. The third cause was the competition for colonies. In the late 19th and early 20th centuries, European powers raced to acquire colonies in Africa and Asia. They competed for control of these territories, which were rich in natural resources such as rubber, diamonds, and oil. This competition for colonies created rivalries and tensions among the European powers, particularly between Britain and Germany. Germany, a latecomer to the game, found itself shut out of the scramble for Africa. Only a handful of small territories were left by the time Germany began its quest for colonies. As a result, there was bound to be some friction with Britain, who controlled vast territories in Africa. Not only that, but Germany's naval buildup was seen as a threat to British naval supremacy. Finally, the fourth cause was the buildup of militarism. Now, militarism is the glorification of military power and the belief that a strong military is a nation's path to greatness. In the years leading up to World War I, the major European powers engaged in a massive arms race, each trying to outdo the other in terms of the size and strength of their armies and navies. This created a climate of fear and suspicion, making war more likely. So now we have all the pieces of the puzzle. The alliance system created a climate of fear and suspicion among the European powers. The rise of nationalism created tensions and rivalries, particularly in the Balkans. The competition for colonies created friction between European powers, particularly Britain and Germany. And the buildup of militarism created a climate of fear and suspicion, making war more likely. And then came the spark that ignited the tinderbox, the assassination of Archduke Franz Ferdinand. When Ferdinand was assassinated in Sarajevo, it was Austria-Hungary that was affected. However, they saw it as an opportunity to crack down on the growing threat of Slavic nationalism. With the support of their ally, Germany, Austria-Hungary declared war on Serbia, thus beginning the conflict that would become World War I. As the war dragged on, the other European powers became involved, drawn in by their alliance obligations. Soon, the continent was engulfed in the deadliest conflict in human history. If you enjoyed this video, please like and subscribe for more historical tales. And, as always, thank you for watching.